to Barcelona, Catalunya. Lando Norris took the victory on the iconic streets of Monaco, closing the championship gaps to just 3 points. Now we're returning to a track that the drivers know exceptionally well, and we're here to bring you everything you need to know ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. Welcome to the weekend warm-up. Hello everyone, and welcome to the weekend warm-up. We're back in Barcelona. We're used to this being the first of the Europeans, but it's only back in January. It really is. As an engineer, I don't know how many thousands of laps I've done of this in simulation world, and how many times I've been here. I think it's 15 years worth of coming. It truly does feel like coming home for everyone in motorsport. Yeah, it's home base, isn't it, for European single-seater racing. Such a great test track, and drivers will know, of course, the layout extremely well. Those who had a difficult time in Monaco will be very much looking forward to something that looks a little bit more conventional this weekend. Can you believe we're a third of the way through the season, which is crazy to think, but a third of the way through and only 25 points separating our top three, with Oscar Piastri, of course, heading it up. It's close. It's so close. And this, the Barcelona race always is kind of, I'd say, turning point in championships historically. An upgrade, everything can change from here, and it resets the tone going into this final race. And it's not just the driver's standings that are close, over in the team standings as well, Alex. McLaren might be a little bit ahead with a 172-point lead, but that P2 is tight, 5 points separating the Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari teams. Yeah, it's really tight this weekend, and of course there are a few changes as well with regards to the technical director that's coming this weekend. There's going to change the running order as well, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Should we talk a little bit more about that technical directive? You might have heard signals of what is coming here. We're looking at this flexuing situation. Alex, Mr. Please, so the norm cars in the modern era make more and more front downforce as they go fast, and teams have been mitigating this to try to get a car which is balanced everywhere, both the low and the high speed, by having the front wing flaps and dips a little bit of downforce at the higher speeds. The FIA, though, this weekend have highlighted the controls of this. There are 3 controls that the FIA have in place. They load one side of the wing, both sides of the wing, and then the rearmost element of the wing. On the first 2 tests, they've taken 5 mil off both of the tolerances, and on the final test, they've taken a couple of mil off. What this will essentially do is reduce the amount that the team can manage to balance with the flexibility in the front wing. We do not know yet, we will only know when the teams are out on track, who this is affecting and how much it's affecting them. But it's been described by Fred Vasseur and James Vowles as a key change in the potential running order of the series. So really interesting weekend in terms of the engineering that is going to play out. Lots to be seen out on track. But great, just to give us a little insight of how we think this could impact the teams and the drivers. And they're going to have to be relearning the cars to an extent. Yes, but if you were using the maximum allowable progression, then you were reined back by this type of progression. That's literally a reduction of a third amount of flex, which is quite a big impact on the balance for the drivers and for the engineers in terms of the setup. I think we'll see that kind of an impact on that times. We'll see that will make a small change, but we are talking potentially in the order of about 10th. I believe Carlos and Alex mentioned that it would George Russell, so it would only be about 10th, and a 10th could be the difference in pole and not pole in that midfield fight. Actually, it's going to be such an interesting one to see which teams do change, if any, and how they adapt to that change with the regulations that come into play in this race weekend. A tenth of a second is our biggest pole-winning margin so far in Formula One this year. So it's still a decent amount. If you're a second off the pace, you're miles away in modern Formula One. Oh, that's some excitement to count when we see the cars out on track. But before we get further into this weekend, let's have a little look at how things went down in Monaco. time out, Lando Norris took a victory on the iconic streets of Monaco, closing the championship gaps to just 3 points. Now we return to a track that the drivers know exceptionally well, and we're here to bring you everything you need to know ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. Welcome to the weekend vlog. Hello everyone, and welcome to the weekend vlog, and welcome to the pit lane, and my lovely guest, my co-host, Richigamme and Alex, for everyone. It's home base, isn't it, for European single-seater racing. Such a great test track, and drivers will know, of course, the layout extremely well. They've had a difficult time in Monaco. We'll be very much looking forward to something that looks a little bit more conventional this weekend. And can you believe we're a third of the way through the season, which is crazy to think, but a third of the way through and only 25 points separating our top three, with Oscar Piastri, of course, heading it up. It's close. It's so close. And this, you know, the Barcelona race, always she's kind of, I'd say, turning point in championships historically. And upgrade, everything can change from here, and it really sets the tone going into those final races in shutdown. And it's not just the driver standings that are close. Over in the team standings as well, Alex. McLaren might be a little bit ahead with a 172-point lead, but that P2 is tight, 5 points separating the Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari teams. Yeah, it's really tight this weekend, and of course there are key changes as well with regards to the technical directive that's coming this weekend. It's going to change the running order as well, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Should we talk a little bit more about that technical directive? You might have heard smiles of what is coming. Looking at this flex viewing situation, Alex, for security, so the modern era make more and more front downforce as they go fast. Teams have been mitigating trying to get cars which is balanced everywhere in both the low and the high speed by having the front wing flex and deal a little bit of downforce at the highest speed. The FIA though this weekend have tightened up the controls. There are 3 controls that the FIA have in place. They load one side of the wing, both sides of the wing, and then the rearmost element of the wing. On the first 2 tests, they've taken 5 mil off both of the tolerances, and on the final test, they've taken a couple of mil off. What this will essentially do is reduce the amount that the teams can manage the balance with the flexibility of the front wing. We do not know yet. We will only know when the teams are out on track who this is affecting and how much it's affecting them. But it's been described by James Valdez as a key change in the potential running order of the series. So really interesting weekend in terms of the engineering as it's going to play out. Lots to be seen out on track, but really just to give us a little insight of how we think this could impact the teams and the drivers. Are they going to have to be relearning the cars 30%? Yeah, should I? If you were using the maximum allowable disruption and then you were ranged back by this technical directive, that's literally a reduction of a third amount of flex, which is quite a big impact in terms of the balance for the drivers and the engineers in terms of the setup. I think you will see that kind of an impact on that time. We'll see that will make a small change, but we are talking potentially in the order of about 10. I believe Carlos and Alex mentioned that it would, George Russell, so it would only be about a 10th. But a 10th could be the difference in pole and not pole, and that may feel like so it's going to be such an interesting one to see which teams do change, if any, and how they adapt to that change with the regulations that come into play from this race weekend. A 10th of a second is our biggest pole-winning margin so far in Formula 1 this year. So it's still a decent amount. If you're a second off the pace, you're miles away. That's some excitement to count when we see the cars out on track. But before we get further into this weekend, let's have a little look at how things went down in Monaco. Of this racetrack will really, I believe, reward when there's particularly strong within the rear-time management throughout the race. Only 3 points between he and Oscar Piastri. It's going to be interesting to see with this being a more unlimited circuit that Lando says it doesn't enjoy so much how it's going to play out. Lando brings all the confidence in, but perhaps the racetrack of the 2 drivers that will see Piastri. As you mentioned, only 3 points now between Oscar and Lando. Confident Lando little we know that Oscar has admired confidence constantly, or more than that. Not to think mentality is not only for the drivers, but in the team as a whole. As a team, you really want to maximize that competition. You know, when you look at the dynasties of Formula One, it's ones where they've managed so well, kind of dancing on the edge of healthy competition across the garage without it spilling over. You look at the ease where that's gone really well, but it's gone very not so well. 2016 is a good example of when the mighty Mercedes had a double DNF in turn one, and this young lad named Max Verstappen won his first race. So I think it's going to be competitive, but we've never seen it spit over with the two of them in Chicago one-track action. I'm excited to see who bounces back on top. As you say, there's different elements of this track. It has a bit of everything, right? That make it so interesting. Historically, as teams, Sector 3 in Barcelona is a really great reference point for having built a good race car. And by that, they need aerodynamic efficient, good handling, something that's is a good all-rounder. Lando comes in this weekend off the back of his victory in Monaco, and last year he got pole here as well. Alex, take us through it.
He certainly did, and Lando Norris with a brilliant pole position here last year in his McLaren. Now crossed the line then, 320 kilometers per hour is the pit speed, just over actually that they make down towards turn one. This is the limitation of ride height around the whole track. It's fourth here in turn one, and listen. Short shift through the exit of turn two. That's how they're managing that rear tyre. It's extreme load then, one of three extreme loads through the right front. Turn four is an early entry, and it's way more uphill than we give it credit for as they make their way through mid to exit of 4. 5, looking at a lot more badge when you stand trackside than it does on the cameras as well. Turn 6 is an easy drive through down to 7. One of the key challenges on the outside is not finding yourself out there on that sausage curve on the outside. Like Jackson, turn 9, 260 kilometers an hour, and then he's 75 meters at the breaking point, down towards turn 10. This is that final sector that we're talking about, where I believe the McLarens are going to be really strong, because you have to deliver traction again and again through turn 10 and 11, and in lieu of convinced, the drivers carrying their body weight with the right hand side of their neck muscles as they need them like at 280 kilometers per hour. Look up to the right hand side, instant feedback here at Barcelona as to how you've done with the timing tower, which is just at the end of the pit lane. Oh, I like that. Thank you very much, Alex. Well, it was Lando that took home with last year, but it was Max Verstappen that took the victory, and he was asked earlier today about his prospects this weekend. Hopefully we can be a bit more competitive. Hopefully I said I will release that there will be a similar to email after. It's a bit difficult to tell, and make a big
And who do you think the biggest competition and challenge for the Red Bull team is going to be this weekend? Is it going to be Ferrari? Is it going to be Mercedes? What do we reckon? I mean, definitely McLaren, right? But McLaren is going to start putting McLaren aside. It's going to be interesting. In theory, that there are two different theories on how Mercedes are going to go this weekend. Firstly, it's going to be pretty hot all weekend in general. George has been really clear, George Russell, that when it's hotter, they struggle. But we're on the farther end of the compound range here, which should help to ditch a little bit of that tyre surface temperature and maybe help the Mercedes to perform. For Ferrari, I think they're just going to miss downforce here this weekend, as they have done everywhere but Monaco. It's just too soft at this stage. They can't run the right out of it. So I think Red Bull versus Mercedes, a fine McLaren is going to be the honor. Not to preempt our prediction. Yeah, let's say out of it there. Mercedes really need a bounce back this weekend, don't they? Because last weekend was a bit of a disaster for the team. The first time they've not scored since Australia 24. It was a lost weekend for them. It was, and then it was lost on Saturday, right? And I think that's one thing that, potentially, I fully agree. Race may say they're going to be a little bit concerned with the temperatures, but they have two drivers that are very technically good across the one-time lap. And actually, if you get two drivers up here in qualifying, track position is important. Yes, overtaking is slightly easier than it once was since we changed that chicane. But I think that would be what Mercedes will be trying to focus on, trying to get two cars into P3 as high up as they can. And then, just as we mentioned, Red Bull, they're in a position that they can use those two cars together on Sunday. But I think it will be tough
for them to trample the front back. But just as with Yuki, they've got to try and get Mercedes, got to try and get Antonelli towards the front of the field. They had a really difficult Monaco. Might have taken a slight knock in confidence as a result of that. And they need Antonelli at what is that circuit he'll know really well, a more conventional racetrack to be delivering, because Charlotte and Lewis are going to be delivering close to the conventional delivery. Right, let's move a little bit down the order now, and let's hear from Alex Albon. For all the hopes this weekend, obviously it was a really good time last weekend. So is another double points attempt. I mean, it's always special coming into your home circuit, but there's also a lot of pressure that comes with it, Bruce. Pressure is a privilege, that's what you always say. Yeah, I think you do see a split between the drivers. Really quite black and white split. Some always go better at their home race, and some always struggle at it. And I think Carlos really does love being here. I think he loves sharing the track with Fernando. You know, his hero turned competitor. You have to say, you know, I'm not counting out Williams, because there's some kind of strategy, there's some kind of extension of the tyres. You know, they always seem to be there. They work well as a team. They work well to really maximise the package that they have. And yeah, I think James Fowles, as well as ultimately, which is a strong record here in his former role as our head of strategy at Mercedes. So I'm not counting on it either. From one home hero to another, Fernando Alonso, let's see what he had to say earlier on in at the press conference. You had a tremendous reception of the fan forum last night. You have a couple of wins, 7 podiums here. Just what makes this one? There's any whiff of him getting points. I am sure he will do it, but I think it's going to be quite a tough weekend, and it is a tough weekend when you're at your home run trades and it doesn't keep it shut. And it doesn't work. But either way, the Hamilton will be good. And they had Adrian Newey in the garage back in Monaco, and as well as being described as a base for the team, which I'm sure he was, the feedback has been incisive after the weekend. He's made a couple of things clear already. The driver in the Link Simulator is not up to par. No, he made a really interesting comment, which was, your wind tunnel can be as good as you like. It's all about the designs you put in it. So giving a team already, there's one thing having a race which is kind of beside here or there, but it's always great to see a face everybody knows in the garage. But a key point, these are already working on those processes and those potential designs for 2026. That really the light at the end of the tunnel for Aston Martin. The car not turning at slow speed. The strategy last weekend in Monaco, Alonso, even before the retirement, was extremely frustrated over the radio with where the team put him and how the team played it. So they'll be hoping to try to apply as many of those points as possible, for as soon as possible. But they've also made it clear, the team that actually a lot of that it'll take a decent amount of time for the team to actually give him. A very difficult start to then for Fernando Alonso, and also not looking too good on F1 Fantasy. And either Stroll is now double the value of Fernando Alonso on F1 Fantasy. So there's also just a reminder to knock in your drivers for this weekend. You're looking like they're ready to get off the bottom of the table. Outcome of the things of the F1, the F1 I've been doing too much active strategy, and I haven't been focused enough on my F1 fantasy strategy. So really, I'm really racing driver comment to say, right? Ruth that I'm, I'll be trying to find. This weekend, we're going to get back on it. Well, make sure you do, and make sure you do at home as well. Let's now talk racing boards, going from some of the most experienced drivers on the grid to the least experienced, but Isaac Ajar and Liam Lawson both doing career best finishes out in Monaco last time, which was really lovely to see. I have to say, such a positive energy around the team. The question is, what can they do around here? I think pretty well. And they have a car which is extremely drivable. They'll be really happy, I think, specifically about the qualifying performance back in Monaco, because it's one thing to play the team game and get both drivers in the points, which they did very, very well with Hadjar and also. But the two drivers around Monaco, two extremely young drivers, both delivering a good enough qualifying performance to put themselves in the action to be able to do that. A drivable car around here should help them keep the tyre in what is so often a race of time management. Very nicely done by the Racing Bulls. Let's now head over to the Hatters team and hear from Esteban.
best man. Good to see here in Spain. Obviously, a really great result last time out to yourself in Monaco. I mean, what the quickly heading to this weekend, I think, when I can get to that. Well, they can achieve something similarly impressive. And thank you very much. Yeah, it was a very good weekend and a nice tour to come back with some points. For me and for the team, voilà, every win. Well, if I'm just going to relate to how, for example, Alpi performed this weekend. They had such a difficult weekend in Monaco. DAZN saying he humped. Do you think it was all about just the part the nature of Monaco and they should be back where they were in previous rounds here? But you mentioned Alpine now. Only 1 point between Alpine and Chab. I mean, we heard how this is in the top of the team standings. Just leaving at the bottom. What are their charge to both Alpine and Alger for the team Chab? Well, again, Kawanashi tomorrow we can have a full conversation with the upgrade. There's teams we used to have to take photos, and now it's beautiful, easy to just get a nice drop to it that tells us. Thanks, Albert, I'll bring in an upgrade. It's a tiny, marginal gain to make a difference. But this track, tries to punish cars that are missing in that downforce sector, and it's the final sector 3 that is the worst one. So you can actually be looking okay, sector 1, sector 2, and then when you're in qualifying, it's that sector 3 lap. I think they're going to have to think every bit of learning, every lap, and really maximise it. In both teams, I think Franco as well is going to look forward to try to have to get back to a track a little bit easier at a Monaco as a rookie coming in. But yeah, definitely, I think the rookies will be breathing out a little bit, see that familiar ground in here. Let's have a look now at the schedule. What the weekend, shall we? Unless you have going to take you through the Spanish Grand Prix. So we have practice 1 and practice 2 tomorrow, and we will be on air from 1:15 and 4:45. Then today in the morning we will have practice 3. Join us from at 12:50, and then we go live with our brilliant qualifying show from at 3:30 ahead of qualifying house. And then stick with us, will be post qualifying show as well. And then at the big one, race day on a Sunday, pre-race show, we will be live from 2 p.m. for a 3 p.m. race start. To bring you everything you need to know ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. Welcome to the weekend walk. Of the way through the season, which is crazy to think, but as that of the way current, only 25 points separating our top 3, with Oscar Piastri, of course, heading it up. It's close. It's so close. And this, the Barcelona race always sees kind of turning points in championships, historic case, and upgrade. Everything can change from here, and it really sets the tone going into this final race before shutdown. And it's not just the driver standings that are close, over in the team standings as well, Alex. McLaren might be a little bit ahead with a 172-point lead, but that P2 is tied 5 points separating the Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari teams. Yeah, it's really tight this weekend, and of course there are key changes as well with regards to the technical directive that's coming this weekend. This is going to change the running order as well, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Should we talk a little bit more about that technical directive? You might have heard smiles of what is coming. Looking at this flexuing and the situation, Alex, talk us through it, please. So Formula 1 cars in the modern era make more and more front downforce as they go faster. Teams have been mitigating this to try to get a car which is balanced everywhere, both the low and the high speed, by having the front wing flex and ditch a little bit of downforce at the higher speeds. The FIA, though, this weekend have tightened up the controls of this. There are 3 controls that the FIA have in place. They load one side of the wing, both sides of the wing, and then the rearmost element of the wing. And then on the first 2 tests, they've taken 5 mil off both of the tolerances, and on the final test, they've taken a couple of mil off. What this will essentially do is because of the duration in length of these corners in front of you. It is round 9 of the World Championship. We are racing in Spain once again. Let's go from the back to the front. I'll show you the green. Hold on. So Lance Stroll has withdrawn. Yuki Tsunoda will start from the pit lane. Dusko on the grid will be Franco Colapinto. They've replaced the gearbox, but not the specification, so he's on the grid and not near the pit lane. Home favourite Carlos Sainz, therefore, of the back run. SN Ocon is 16th, and then it is Nico Hulkenberg next to him. Oliver Bannon in 14th. Liam Lawson lines up. He's 13th on the grid for this one. Best darting forward one for Gabriel Borg-Blackson in 12th. Alex Albon is 11th for Williams, their best qualifying this 2017. Tells a story. Fernando Alonso 10th at his home race. Isaac Hadjar once again in that top 10. It is rookie season. Pierre Gasly looking for his second points finish with the year. Charles Leclerc chose his strategy, elected to take the hint. Can apply and try and take the benefit in the Grand Prix. Antonelli is 6th. Lewis Hamilton, the V Ferrari on the grid, for only the second time since he joined the team. George Russell went from 2nd to the lead last year. Max Verstappen has been talking up doing just that in the press conference after qualifying, and it's the first McLaren front row lockout here to Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. And what happened to him? It is Oscar Piastri on pole once again in Formula 1, so that fills time. In the commentary room, I'm Alex Shakes, joined by David Coulthard and Jolyon Palmer. David, it was 7/10 of a second, the gap between you and Mika back in the day, and I'm told that you were saying that earlier on. And yeah, and what's indeed, I was amazed at the offset in performance back when that was considered normal. So I'm 7/10 away from Mika in second. Michael Schumacher in third was 7/10 slower than me. So if you put that in perspective, and you get his in order, if you put the offset in time between himself and Lando and Oscar on the front row, you qualified in own body in 6th place. So Formula 1 today is so tight, it's so close, and a man that I really yesterday and more recently that got the pain of that closeness of this sport. It's a sickness side, there's Jolyon near, you should have reached the byside. I can't imagine coming in and just looking to find 1.4 seconds to go and attack for pole position. And if you give yourself months today with those sort of gaps, so it is nice, but the field is so close now. It just hundreds of a second to make a difference. Even in the 2016, 2017 racing there, and it was small margins, but they closed up even course. It's better. This 20% people. That's the trophy that they are for the VT4 today. Different babies across the field. So Yuki Tsunoda is just to try and work his way back to the points like he did in Imola. As we look, can we get our first advantage of the tyres that all are starting on? That it is a sea of soft tyres on the grid. Years these to the two McLarens, and it looked like years everyone behind. So McLaren should have little bit more fight of the line. But then look, it's a long run down to the first corner, the first braking zone, where the likes of Verstappen and Russell will start to slipstream them and will launch an attack. Seven us at every. Yeah, actually see them doing as well though. Only 4 kilometers. Sometimes a new tire is true. Think what about people if a slightly longer run. So those that have got a scrub sink, they get that little bit of tuning overnight. It may give them more longevity into that first stint, but you have to be right off the line. That will mean it's a battle of the McLarens initially. Well, last week in Monaco with the different fuels, we didn't even want to predict what we were going to get in terms of the strategy. They are different. It is a two-start strategy today. That's what they believe we're going to get. So out the point of view, it's certainly on that start entire going to what I was pushing. Palm up line, not tell. Then Xinguan for the first time since 2023, there's many people to this racetrack, with the Williams that have been resurgent early this season, just not working around this racetrack like it has not. I like the start. They call us to score points every time he's come here to race in Formula 1. And for a driver that it is a good day, there's about 10 years of that, but he's got a lot of work to do for 17th. And yeah, Williams is not there. It's not so. They'll be through them. Started the top 10 today. Okay, this starts the front of the field. The top 3 drivers in the World Championship will line up in that order. Oscar Piastri is 3 points ahead of Lando Norris. Max Verstappen is 25 points away from the man who starts on pole. Then David, do you see Max Verstappen going the ball in? Wait, like you did it in Monaco? I do. And I think George Russell, for memories, as we know from last year as well. I just don't see how else. Well, they could have taken this really 50 into the car and run there 1-2 on the opposing lap. I think they will just launch away going up to the distance. So, yeah, if you want to win it, then you very risk betting the first corner. And they've got very little to lose. Verstappen and Russell, they've both had good starts to the season, but they are trying to stop swinging against a mighty beast that is McLaren. So they have to take the lead, one of them. They want to try and win this race. Lando Norris's parents are feeling the pressure, the nerves, the anticipation from everything that the crowd in the makeshift grandstand here that holds 10,000 people will be feeling as well. These are the staring moments. These are the nervous moments. The track temperature is 49 degrees. The air temperature is 29. One car will go to the pit lane. One car not. Stroll has already withdrawn. We'll need 18 cars on the grid and a daunting 550-meter run down to turn number 1 from pole position. Even longer. Others behind. We have seen some big stops around here. Christian Horner standing up, watching with all of us. Lando Norris on the left. Oscar Piastri on the right. Green flag at the back. All battling Barcelona begins in 5 laps time. The Spanish Grand Prix is no rain. As you can turn that off, and victory is gone. And it's Verstappen who is moving in on that to second place. George Russell trying to pace inside. You can just stand there. If you are that doesn't take second. Take second place in the Grand Prix. Down the third goes Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri lead. Actually, that is observable and I'll rejoice. And then big box Howard, who was able to sweep around the outside and get onto the ball. He did so. Whoops, it was pinched to lead inside. And the main exact of a year ago. And it's Piastri, Verstappen, Norris, Howard, ready to see. Yeah, dreams snug, Port, Piastri. Lavendel, was wonder. Then you get a break and he stops and see the dive down the inside. Okay, George Russell there out of 5. So this is exactly points that I wouldn't have wanted, but Piastri's seen absolutely roof wide. And this should be represented area to see how they manage these opening laps of the tire. Stop barriers, get past George Russell on the opening lap. Charlotte Claire following through the ocean. Sumptuous from the jet, centered in a really controlled Russell napping a little bit, and that is worst case scenario to Mercedes, and it didn't think they'd lined up that race pace either. Oh, minutes into what we want to trying him to go way onto wheel lights and pitch off for that long-term racing in a paddock circuit where you'd never normally see Pajo's ahead of Alonso going into a technical section, and the other favourite was trying everything to soar away at the back with the racing horse against Swerve, but instead he's left himself under it into Hulkenberg, who's got a rub pulled out of there. Yeah, with Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, Leclerc, that was the old man, straight to them. If generally Verstappen could do it, it's a trend. I'm also trying to be audacious, finish trust in the place. Yeah, you get into 7 lane with all in, and as he looks through a lot of it, for sure. I don't believe I've seen that. He wasn't going to take it like that. Hulkenberg retakes the position. Fernando Alonso took it on flat and the left. She got the left to feature at the tower. Around the outside of turn 3. This is the battle that keeps on giving. The brilliant out of turn 5. Sensational love. The racing between Joe and Alonso. Hulkenberg and Alonso checks the mirrors and thinks, surely not in turn 7. Well, Fernando Alonso doesn't have a point this year. You get the feeling he doesn't really care at the moment. He's reveling, really in the thick of it. And Hulkenberg trying to return southward to the points for the first time since the opening race of the year. Outright, we've got loads of racing action considering this track used to be notorious for providing 6/10 of a second. With the Piastri versus Verstappen, Verstappen is going with the championship leader. He's keeping it within DRS range all up to now Valtteri. Yeah, that's exactly what Max will want to do. Gets the advantage. We're both getting the such near push pressure of McLaren. They can't manage the tire. We know what traded a long pace. All the Red Bulls was truly given. And this isn't a great strategy from Max. She put the pressure on Piastri at these early laps. Really taking the fight to the McLarens.
in a day Greg, a 7 size is going to be the name of the game. A certain voice of the Grand Prix. Right now, he's trying to extract all of the pace possible. It was the opening meters of the race where the Verstappen just got a better launch off the line than Lando Norris and was able to convert the braking to scrape up to second position and then rushing, losing out to Lewis Hamilton. It brought out to 4th and then Charlotte Leclerc by the P5 at turn 5. And that is the order as we see. Gasly hanging on to 8th place. These dot months told to his voice, slinger tearing on 5 at the concentrate. So look, great, we hear him occasionally. Get on the radio to retry, but that's what he touched the air flick towards him quite halfway in this Grand Prix. Well, he's just in his driver's side from a decent promising position there for 4th place. And he's now 6th and 7th, and Russell started 4th. Well, she was leading after lap 1, so this is not how Mercedes had envisaged the start of this one going, and he's going to settle down into a rhythm. I think in Cairn is in a reasonable position here. Obviously Hamilton as well. Chad Shaw versus Gasly. These two, the watching TSG win the champions for each again at last night. 2 proud supporters of that football team, but we're seeing a good effect in the DRS down the main straight. We see Hulkenberg making it on onside. Hulkenberg was slightly off the racing line. Gasly repels the attack though. Yeah, we'll see Alonso now is dropping back to Hulkenberg. He's hit his tyres brilliantly on that opening lap. Right, the audience, the cars are handy, but still, it's like pretty on after that. I'll tell you, she's on besides passenger into the car with a 100 cubic blade strapped into it. So look, you're trying. If the degradation of the tire, wheel of desire, and the performance can just come to you as the Grand Prix was on. Yeah, that's a really, you know what, the last one, he has shaken the Verstappen well off his tail now. I'm wondering, he was just a bit cautious bringing in that soft tire that he said with the weight at the start of the race. Don't want to damage it. The stack that almost having that is inside. So that's just after the race. On the last lap, now he backs off by half a second, but it's still enough to cruise away from Verstappen. The reason I think Leclerc's in position is because he saved a set of tyres in qualifying yesterday, because he left him only 7th on the grid. I don't want to think he thought it kind of such a tie. Maybe if he'd used that, it thought accidents on by very early on, and he stopped over some in the heads and Roy's letting them both together. And line away, he drove podium fight today. Yeah, this is very mature self. So the relatively inexperienced Paul Seto there watched this stuff. The other side, look at the Ferraris behind. They were radiant and wheel to wheel as they're running, and then the action of the front, George Russell looking and thinking about the inside as Max sweeps it around Lando Norris, and Lando was calm with his sump at that point. Yeah, well, even it was a big trust to him to try and take the lead there for the front row. It's just all about who got the better launch between Norris and Piastri, and who else can nail that. And even worse now for Norris, it is got a buffer between him and the race leader, which is exactly what happened to him last year when Max managed to build an unassailable lead. This is a similar position as well. They found himself in. We've 3 wide, Verstappen and Russell. And once again is the driver on the outside that sweeps in and takes the place. And they know when you're on the outside there, you've got the confidence you can attack and play out through that run-up there if you happen to. Russell did it last year, Verstappen did it this year. And it was nice doing some mats. That would bring it the action, and the other way for Lewis Hamilton. But well, you know, it's not like letters, bring those jump alongside. There's Alton, and the rest slipped around the outside of George, who was blocked in, and the inside behind Lando. The nose to turn on the check line, however, they were so close to touching because Leclerc on a fantastic launch. I was straight between Antonelli and Bolton immediately as Lawson has a little touch as well. Thinking I've got away with that at the start of the race. But yeah, Leclerc's reactions were just blistering as he came through the Mercedes and his teammate. Here of the Hulkenberg, cautious and the brakes avoiding George Latina, but we saw as Lawson touched. Then he had no choice but to take to the F1 video that really joins his teammates. Let's really. I wondered how Hulkenberg adopted did deep to 10. Let's say the very battling course as they go through the runoff area. So he somewhere managed to pass his teammate and then got in with Fernando Alonso as well. So somewhere else he managed to make again, and it was one of them just through that runoff area. Yeah, that will saw the image there on the damaged front wing, and going out with the George to lose time in the pace, and definitely was be affecting but as it go otherwise now, they've got an eye on this one, so expect them to go on rules assembly. Two shots. Fight between the two for rat race. Look at Hamilton holding trying position at the moment. And Charlotte tight directly behind. After they redrawing correctly, following the race director's notes, and was ushered off the racetrack by contact. So it'll be a good really. And said I think if that is penalised, but he did gain 4 positions in that nervous. Why he really was able to get marks for that also on the second run. Bit of Ferrari team orders, and we have that already this year. Just a pass. Been a couple of races though since we had that fun on the radio. I feel like it's going to be coming soon because the F1 is really Christian Fulton. He also has the strategic involvement with the tyres in this race. So it's important for Ferrari. They want to maximise what they can do. They don't lose time, and I feel like their time is sharp at this point because Norris and Verstappen aren't too far ahead still. Push on these times now. I mean, I think that's the main time plan for sure. You know, I thought we were going to get a response there from Lando. So they know what to expect. It'll be interesting to see whether he can to show into the back calls for the snap. A little bit quick in the last time around. But look, this is absolutely a case of ground. They've got to look at the big picture here. Leclerc is in the dirty year. If he is particularly too deep like there, and he is, let him know the bit. This thing in these days, take videos of radio transmissions and that and we've done it soon. Did not get Hamilton out of the way at this point. He's led slower than Leclerc over the weekend. He did do a good job in qualifying yesterday to get up into the top 5. He's made a decent start of it as well, but he's clearly clearly only 5 you can. And Charles has been having a big time in the full season. He's got the better tyres. He doesn't want to waste that advantage from having his teammate. It's a lot of communication, but he's started 7-time world champion and you're ordering him out of the wage. Yeah, stop. And I think it's just going to have to draw his race. You might see New York so loud and proud of him. He did more manager, he did do it more important than the team. So going to do the right thing. It's not about the individual. Yeah, still, Ferrari's running this formation. So yesterday, Charles Leclerc was adamant about running early and qualifying to try and extract potential with his back. He knew he was going to be saving a set of tyres as a result. Right now he's taking the dirty air course by the Ferrari in front of him, continuing to race out front. Charles Leclerc right now, 9 seconds away from Ishmael, off the after in the lead of the Grand Prix. And he's losing a second cell now, 16 behind Hamilton to get a slipstream. Why not? And Charles 2-1. Hamilton the beam shot, this to the inside. Freddie Norris is racing his teammate. I told tried the latest of lunges that might have been deployed on another team. I can't help but feel that even if you want to shift a wheel-to-wheel action, we see Tsunoda taking an early stop. This will be taking a information for Red Bull and tires coming onto the medium, going onto the soft. But there was a little bit just to look at the bigger picture here. They're going to be decisive. They're wasting their race. Leclerc is there. He's got the best chance of getting a result for them today. And he's just sitting, wasting that advantage. It's not easy to pass him. And if you're getting that close into turn 1, you clearly have a significant pace advantage. If you ever start any people to also, he has to show it by now. There must be radio transmissions that are just sitting there waiting to be played to us. I cannot believe Leclerc is suffering in silence, and there we see. So up the drums. There's a message. Has the tyres for the rest of the Grand Prix. And the message comes through as a swap of positions. And then a strange message to give a 7-time world champion, the one that could help Ferrari look further ahead, rather backwards. And Charles Leclerc is given the position into turn number 1. Has turned the team instruction. A little off seconds behind the race lead. So they've probably lost themselves to the 3 to 4 seconds, and now he's 6 seconds behind Lando ahead. When we started this, and he was looking at the back of Lewis for that time, that no one jumped up the road, still in shot, on shows and lack time lost, and he's had. Finally, he gets the position. We'll see now as Ferrari, that pace get over the top 3.
So, Julian, just give me a bit of support on this, because obviously, as I'm heading to the criticism towards Lewis, there'll be those who are going, what position do you have to criticize the several champions? But he didn't let him Charles by. He could have lifted the streets, but don't get any dust on his tires. It was a slightly short pot line in front of them there that's responded. What did company might do is little true and plead because this was sizes. The ironic thing is, when he actually let Charles through, Charles was alongside the back and he made on the last 2 laps, so it would have been very easy to do it on the last 3 laps. But then Yang was sort of thinking, waiting for Charles to get them on the straight, and then it took a while, so quickly then had to do it in turn 1. Serious pace for Lando Norris in the last couple of laps. It goes up to the back of Verstappen. Verstappen taking this position, using the DRS zones, getting down to half a second. Gasly's coming into the pits. We've also seen Holcott there again in the battles for the points. 190 then at the low reaches of the points. CG Tsunoda a few minutes ago is how he was able to get past Alex Albon. And even we've also seen a really close stop for Carlos Sainz. 10 seconds stationary and sums up stage 10 so far. It's currently the last car on track. Norris is bringing it to Verstappen right now. He's blowing the game on this lap. Just out ahead on Hulkenberg, and that Fleitel, Alpine and Salvo chasing the same thing today. A second twice scored finish of the champ Dave. Chives looking tactically into the window. Hulkenberg speed improving plenty of places, and up for us, that's number 4. Decision is the same thing for the French driver. Yes, Gasly out, the strategic race sorted. Here we go, look at the top left of your picture now. You can see Lando riding up the charts. Center left with Momo, bit of difference. Now, Lando Norris having that tip. See, we're all board. We've got Verstappen, McLaren, and corsa and corsa. Verstappen, understandably, through the defensive shape. He's reported to the team, but he doesn't have the grip. And he's rival in the championship. Ahead of him by 22 points is all of him on the racetrack. McLaren, they're looking so good at the Spanish Grand. So Verstappen does his actions, the Astrid in the pace out front solo. Also, this not disappeared too much. Still 4 seconds, but you can see him still turning into that voice around a turn forward. And just about still in touching distance, but Lando has to try to clear match. This is matching in the mirrors, thinking he is putting under serious pressure. Austin tire up there. This was the toughest. But that's Strumail, the rule for rear now. Yeah, I think that the Piastri has been managing quite comfortably out front. You'll be aware of the fact that once Tsunoda's good Piastri after Verstappen, you'll be looking to those first couple laps after the same race. Warning is the appetite to Norris to come at him. You could see Verstappen sliding around afterward with high-speed doors, and if you move up and down where you want it, it's difficult to keep it nailed on. Lando's going to have a great chance. So, across the line we go. Max Verstappen checking the left-hand mirror. Is it flat? You know where it's going? Carlos Renconsa with the GRS, with the speed. Swanda moves. Into turn number 1. Pretty much flat out and gets touched the Red Bull. Norris getting tossed Verstappen, and it's the McLaren 1-2 at the Spanish Grand Prix. Now walks in a face to Norris provides to try and get it down the race speed. The good thing is McLaren battle draw the race speed. Nothing Verstappen could do. Yeah, nothing to do, which is why he needed nothing. Why walk away when it's pretty delaying, inevitable, and it would be affecting his tires. So this is as we've been sort of protecting. Isn't Carlos shit right, but found Tron reliably. It's like Carlos at that's the best that the Sanford can eat for under long conditions. It was the lesser spotted white flag from Verstappen. The Max was clever to do that. As you say, DC, he'll know that this pressure is just too much. He's not going to keep him under fight for too long. Demobilized outlaw last year for the race lead. You know you're not going to win in the long hold. We're already 13 left to do a 60. 60 up on 3. Don't find it. Liam Lawson to the inside of Gabriel Bortoletto, Racing Bull driver, coming off the back of his best ever career result in Formula 1 with T8 and the Monaco Grand Prix, getting the fast Bortoletto, which was currently E9 of the racetrack, which is Fernando Alonso, locking up and going on into the gravel and dropping down behind the parent of the back of the old track.
Any unusual to see a mistake from Fernando, but that corner drilling, as you know, it drops away from you, and if you just get that braking a little bit wrong, it's quite difficult. As the next, you've got to keep chumming. You're to the vegetable bank to then get that front wheel of the engaged and the block. Now, mentioning qualifying yesterday, it was so easy to look in the front that we had really been doing all weekend. And I'd imagine one thing to no one also to be the first one. There is a critical time as well for him with these picks up now playing out. Alonso trying to keep Ocon at bay now. It's been all action for Fernando today, but he's stopping in the direction he's wanted to go. Fighting on the first lap, trying to get past Hadjar. There you go, with the chase-in by Hoselsberg. Off the road in third time to allow Horse to the ball perfectly through. Now he's trying to keep Ocon behind. Currently, Dinky and Edder. There's all that. You were watching Max Verstappen stop immediately pull to the pit lane after being undertaken by the first of the leading contenders to get a new set and tyres back out there again on the softs. They saw him chase after Oscar in those very early laps, didn't they? It was all about trying to make that move at turn one, and I wonder if just being aggressive in the first few laps and lying around in the dirt to fight for a race lead meant that he gave these soft tyres more punishment than necessarily needed to, all the drivers around were doing in the early laps. Back up front with our race leader and Chad Dichiglio, Oscar Piastri, straight to win his 5th Grand Prix of the season today, and he's running China, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, and in America. I believe on 3 for test of 3 Trents. 2 mistakes this year to Formula 1. Franco Colapinto was unable to give his lead for the line, gets delayed. Here, on to change. Started all the tracks, Brian up the other lost the bridge, and we end up we had 1 withdrawal, 1 car in the pit lane. That's a chip to the 8th stop. The Argentine July left as a value-weight deal announced, and he is in at race 3 of it as he tumbles to the back of the field, having made that stop. Signed he's got to need a proper twist in the middle of this Grand Prix to continue his point scoring run at his home race. But we see how far behind they are. And the fact is, the other here's the race leader continuing on lap 16 with 66, and McLaren's not responding to the Stappen coming in. They're setting up the pace projected. He's there at the Bulbits, half is gone. At an speed 12 3 Grand Prix about the overall performance and what he's got underneath, and pushed everywhere was the verdict. Hard to argue with it. Now as through goes Max Verstappen up against Isaac Hadjar. Simple move. Senior team against junior team. And it's yes start. It's another check. Yeah, Hadjar absolutely compliant there. He understands the big picture of this future is that it's very deep in Formula 1, and then he doesn't know at this stage. So see around Max Verstappen, political and frankly, we stormed the same race that they're both fighting this afternoon. It's a sensible move. Hadjar obviously didn't build this any time with that, but he needs to try and make the most of this, set himself to it. Not only, he also doesn't want to get through these two quickly. The McLarens are in a different league today, from what I can see. They're still laughing at a strong take. They're a second quicker than Ferraris right now, and they're going to be 2 clicks of Red Bull, I think, in a normal race without some level of interruption. To start that with his dent stuff may well undercut Norris again. He probably has already, in fact, with his bosses. Somebody's just been in one golden McLaren because their longevity, the tyre life, is very strong so far. But he's in a fight to third. And the McLarens are just going to keep going long, and Norris is going to hold. Then, yes, his tyres fall away. Piastri and the moment is keeping on at a consistent pace. They're well. In comes Lewis Hamilton to the Dignate, a 6-time Spanish Grand Prix winner. About it is much. So a long way to go. Taking out the champ. He's got a move. Seems a long way to go. Certainly is, lap 17.66, and being told that they're protecting from the undercut, protecting the Lewis cars. They're fixing and taking on Schrecher Robert, Stappen. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Zach Schrecher Robert. Helps out ahead on Gabriel Goldblumecz. Chasing his 3rd point scoring finish in Formula 1 today. He's lap to back the F3 and F2 champ. So, push please. Top 12 Della Torre going to take Charles out of 3rd place as well. To kind of cover off Lewis. Lewis was pitching to cover off the Mercedes. The Mercedes are carrying on.
Actually, their race pace isn't as miserable as they thought it might be after Miami, where they struggled a lot, and in other course as well. Antonelli ahead as we get the calls on Ferrari to bring McLaren. So Antonelli struggling with these tires. You can see they all say into his fresh tires. Right there inside exists. Thank you very much. I don't see that happen very often. I was thinking when he placed the car at that on the racetrack, and then it's see back and forth. Van Verstappen says I'm going to use the ball with a lucky. And breaks off by. He did so. He's in P4 runs there. He does. Pittman to Charles left. Made it stop with his car in sixth position. We went to Charles there. Mounts in the order. Through goes Hanshaw. Then it will be Neil Lawson for a genuinely ahead of Lewis Hamilton, ahead of Liam Lawson, and Ferrari executing that nicely. On to the medium side, almost. Six. That's nearly a little bit of time being overtaken over in their place. Well, this is the benefit of DRS, which we would have had, of course, had Verstappen overtaken him on the start-finish streak. So this is just, and I'll say, Antonelli taking that tight life and then being very spatially aware to make sure he didn't over the ceiling, which would be right, getting involved. And then he picks up DRS at the lap time advantage that would have given him. And you might get a better visual demonstration of the effect of new tires at an undercut than Max Verstappen overtaking Antonelli where he wants. Check him. Could be absolutely. That's all. Neither would say same question, same answer. Where I'm sure to the Mercedes, given the state the race was in, the Mercedes have taken the other option. Now this is to go long. Jules Washington is ahead of Max Verstappen racetrack and yet stopping this Grand Prix. Verstappen enjoying this soft tyre. I'm already up to black of the Mercedes. 19 runs down, or was on the 19th left all the time. George Russell's in at the start of the Grand Prix. It's important that we pick our batteries today. No point currently trying to fight the McLaren all around you. It's just further off the road to us. He's spinning back into the fast lane. Is Liam Lawson. Let me go back to that point finishes. George Russell once again deciding there's no point in fighting. And again, a different fielder. We're going to take you around this nice track to Max Verstappen. After all, it's on at turn 12. Back in the inside line at turn 7 to get past the second Mercedes. And we've played their place. Yeah, I don't think you will have many photographers there in turn 7 to capture that moment because he's standing really seeing him in overtake there. You can see a few people going off for an exit. Is standing by in what is at an end of the Grand Prix. Going to check her battles. Well, this is Fernando Alonso. But he's not as Grand Prix at Formula 1 around this racetrack. He's at it again around the outside. Turn up at 3. And I know he's not at the points. And I know there's been hit the tire on thing. But hey, great to see Fernando Alonso in the front. A couple of other good takes that I'm trying to enjoy. He absolutely loves that outside of turn 3 loop. He's done it for decades now around there. He's done it in the more significant position as well. It's 17th place. And that's Max making the loop against George. Again, that's two different spin the time like between the two cars. I mean, the Mercedes are now just getting out of the way with 3 slacks with how easy Max just carving it up there. So Tonelli read the outside of 12, whilst Russell on the inside of 7. Now not overtaking Blazers eventually, but on this new set of softs that he's on, they're not really new anymore. He's done 6 laps on them, but he's just getting that momentum on it, drilling them and exploring pace. And at the moment, at the McLaren's lead, Verstappen is back in the front. Toby, which great bit of high chance we could get. That mentioned by Possible. Toby, but here's the corners we don't normally see. Isaac Hancock, bring up the tyre, out into the pits to challenge to return to the point once again. Around the outside of all of the Babin and Beetle the medium tyre for 11 laps and through the wins. Through to the claim as quickly as possible. He did so. George Russell comes in his dance now in the pit lane. Slightly longer than the Ferraris. And a 2.3 second stop. Very useful. Or it is not a strider. He was aiming for a podium today.
That was his hope. He was last there in Italy. That's several rounds. They were non-score in Monaco and not competitive in Imola. P7 finish. It beats out. Dimitri second for Lightning but with precious tyres on the descent. Norris is drifting back through Piastri. They head towards the pit stop phase, and McLaren will land on it. He's just losing too much time now. Even to Max, and there's been a pitted, so there's no point hanging it out. It's all going to be a one-stop hold, and any deals to the pit rate. She's landed Norris and Sackett. Drivers at practice station all the time. The 10th entry. Make sure they leave the decent amount of time. Scrub up the speed before they hit the limiter. Nice wide entry. McLaren are the world champions and instructors. And tied to back to the last year is that you get to pick what end of the tip. Nice. Like the big apps, they pick this end. So now Norris will bring these tyres in, go to work, and he will try and erode the gap that the Apri has, and it is a decent one. Across the line, nice buffer of the Apri trying to elongate the gap in the championship that came down to 3 points at the last round for the extra surely then on this lap as well, and that'll be test part of the coverage jumped up for the second car, but involved will be taking Max Verstappen, so they've got plenty more to do. There we go, lots of spots, but also they've got to cover up now. Lando, well, they're putting on the unleashed on those new tyres. Potentially 100 car, it's teammate, and absolutely love it, even though the defender team gated comes championship rivals out front. And today, outside of Hulkenberg, that's the in 8th position. Hulkenberg reinstates Hulkenberg to championship next 5 laps ago. So the different activities between the two cars. Hulkenberg 9th position. Kachov is his second behind. And here is our race leader. Get rid of those soft tyres, so not really need to use. And 2 seconds stop is exactly what McLaren would have, you saw. Yep. And Max Verstappen to walk by, well, he just has the race lead. Lost the Piastri. Come out of this in second place, but with a McLaren and a tyre performance that is spicy so far. Hold on, the interesting thing is what's the gap between the teams, and it's about the same. So a brilliant lap hectares, 80%. The last of the Apri gives him an advantage. 5 seconds over his teammate, heading into distinction. Actually, also text through. It's really smart. We have to really he's better in that pole position. And essentially is coming up through the order pretty well with an not interested in the order. And with the take, he's not far away from Wilton in himself into the fights. Yuji Tsunoda currently in 12th. He has run 17 laps now on this soft tyre. He's got all the bad and a quick 3 seconds ahead. Here's on the vegan. Lucky around that circuit, and they're just trying anything they can across the course of the weekend. So they just started the teammate, bridge the tip lane to people sharing in. I didn't know. The team said they could set up with the car. Usually Snyder reports he just no breadth the front, tap the rear. And it was conservative lap. He said he didn't make any mistakes, and he was downright bewildered to find himself P20 and trying to do has-be this. But he's doing it up as E5 for 41 this year. That's the other race of the year. And he was with a different team. Race 14. In race 3, trying to rediscover the segment all with a car that has a higher potential, but a much prettier operated in the game. And then difficult and extract the best. It is the current race leaders that came into the picture much earlier. Damage to the flower and says, come on, board. With Richigamme and 11. We got soon tears. 200 live draw. And so they get past the Gasly, who just won 13 lap both soft tyres. And it's a bottom move for Adjar. Incisive move to turn number 1. Meshes with pressure tyres. Then even on this racetrack is a useful one, and Hadjar gets by another really strong weekend for another rookie driver in the field. Without a minute, it's probably the best ever day in their history yesterday. It looks like he's on it all. But no points you get from you hit me. Oh, you should have tired. It's been 3 weeks of clearing the drivers that have stayed out or teaching very early and all soft tires. You've got to do it as efficiently as possible when you're trying to slide through and you're trying to get some points to touch our is today. It was great. and he needs to get the position. Back to DAZN. Lawson had contacts down into the first turn. He didn't have a repeat by Anthony, but he's only did onset with Liam Lawson. And technically his race there. Just hitting that myself. Liam just to straight off the bit. Yeah, well, we'll wait to see that. He might have just struck my attention. This Leclerc has made it quite certain that to Doris. And probably quicker than Richigamme. It's all pretty much at the same time, 19.9. Leclerc pushing his tires harder, 95. So then we can start to speculate how much time he lost. Getting clear of Hamilton in his early laps. Mine lost its 5 there for I'm sure it's lost. And this time I'm going to go toss. Oh no, at this train tracks. There was contact, there's debris all over its head to one turn. And well, I'm doing dramatic stuff on consecutive laps between Lawson and DAZN, and damage there. Maybe really tricky weekend for Williams. Lawson gets to 12th position and also then 13th. There will be some sort of intervention. The debris in the first few turns. Yeah, but that was a bit sloppy, I'm not to say. Alex is normally super sharp, but unless the side wasn't capturing that edge as well. You can see an opportunity of the replay here. They are big, strong wings. Difficult to complete this speed, but anytime it's the push off, we'll talk to you about it. So don't worry about it. Did we get the contact? So that's a nice move actually in my eyes. Out from Lawson up the inside. Just there, the 8th exit out, then kicks the plate back up to the corner, which is not legitimate. So I think Lawson is correct. And then he's there on the outsiders and not the move. And you're absolutely right, DC. And that's a misjudgment from Alvin. Second time he's done this front lane this race. He did it on the first four of the race as well at the same time. And now he's just left that wave in there to be killed by Lawson. He was making another nice pass on it. Then in the yellowish light from race control, so they're happy with what they're seeing on the screens that got in the pit building. And here's the race leader coming up to that first turn, and Max Verstappen being on those tyres for 30 laps now. So he come to be start at that 27. You do see the McLaren having all the car and pressure tyres as well, as we mentioned. Right, you don't need 2 turns clear on the Russell. Yeah, the Verstappen started to get into get the gap to the Verstappen running. Oh, he's not the test quicker. Oh, but the McLaren is still delivering the lap time, equaling the McLaren to that gap, as we can see. It's still over 4.5 seconds. So either the McLarens are not particularly quick on this medium tyre, or they are gridding the tyres in a very gentle way to make them go a long way further into this race. Actually, Leclerc did a similar thing when he did the mediums on. For many laps, he was losing chunks of time to Verstappen. I still think logically that's our podium fight. That's on fight to third. McLaren surely will have too much. But now Leclerc has managed to dip on the pace. I'm waiting to see if McLaren at some point will turn the shafters off and go chasing Verstappen. They have to at some point. Max just on the face of it, just jumped the bumps that McLaren didn't finish. They had confidence in the face of their car. They're going to shove it now. This is Isaac Hadjo. So the second time in the Grand Prix, joined a long way around and getting past the rival. First of all, it was Ollie Behrman, then it was Pierre Gasly, and both released him to lead to the win of Plum.